well. Thanks for joining me again. Today I am going to tackle a couple of the issues that are plaguing my Mercedes A-Class W168 first generation. If you watched my first video, a little walk around the car, you know I did mention it has some issues. The first issue that I'm going to tackle is an engine management light is on the dash. I do know what the fault is, and I'm pretty confident I know what the fix for that fault is. So basically we've got a code which is flagging up for mixture 2 lean when we scan the vehicle. I'll put a little picture here of the code. There you go. And doing a little bit of research, that code doesn't really give you a lot of information. It doesn't tell us which sensor's faulty or which sensor's picking up the problem. It doesn't really indicate to say that the catalytic converter's faulty. And there's no other faults relating to that issue in the module. We've got no fuel pressure codes, we've got no mass airflow sensor faults, we've got no misfire faults or anything like that. So that is the problem. I did a little bit of research, a little bit of Googling, and I found two potential causes. The first off, which I really hope it isn't because it'll be a massive pain, is these early A-classes suffer with mass airflow sensor failure, but they don't fail completely and flag a fault for the airflow meter. They fail and kind of just skew the readings a little bit. They get a little bit confused about its fuel air mixture and can make the engine run a little bit lean. I really hope it's not that, because on these A-classes the mass airflow sensor is actually part of the engine ECU, which is coded to the other modules, and they're not easy to find and they're not easy to repair. So I'm hoping that's not faulty, because that'd be a right pain. The other possible cause, I couldn't find as many cases of this on A-classes. However, while I was researching parts, I found that the Lambda sensors used on the 160 and the 140 model petrol are the same as early smart cars. It is the exact same sensor, exact same part number. Mercedes just reused them. And I found a couple of smart car forums where it suggested bad starting and the engine management light on, and it was caused by faulty Lambda sensor. And that is exactly what the fault we have. Occasionally it isn't too easy to start from cold and it'll turn over too many times, a bit longer than you'd like. And it does fire up. Once it's fired up, it runs. But that's more of a description of what I'm getting. So I'm hoping them smart car people are right, and that does cross over to this A-class as well. With it being exactly the same sensor, not just the same type or the same brand, the part number is identical. So if those sensors are prone to being a little bit faulty, they must go faulty on these as well. The mass airflow sensor fault, from what I've read up, seems to cause a lot of running issues, bad starting as well. But when you're slowing down to come to a junction, you'll get shuddering and the car's trying to cut out, might actually cut out on you when you're driving, things like that. Whereas this doesn't do any of that. Once it's going, it is absolutely perfect. So I'm going to take a little bit of a gamble and change the exhaust Lambda sensors. Now, I would like to change the one that is faulty, assuming just one is faulty, but I have no idea which one of those it is. I found a couple of sensors for reasonable money. They're about £30 each, so I'm just going to go ahead and change them both. So that should eradicate the problem completely, fingers crossed. They don't look too bad to change, so I've got the car jacked up already. Let's get out there, slide under it and put some new sensors in. This is the catalytic converter. We've got one Lambda sensor here, which is the pre-cat, before the cat. We've got the other one here, which is the post-cat. We are going to change both, just to be safe. So I'm going to give them a little squirt with some lubrication. There we go. Now, Lambda sensors is one of them jobs that in theory is very easy, but can go wrong quite quickly, especially if these don't want to come out or we damage the threads getting them out. Now, you can use a normal 22mm spanner. Lambda sensors are pretty much universal, they all use 22mm, but if this is tight or seized, then it'll be very easy to round it off, and then we're never going to get it out without a fight. So if you can, get yourself some Lambda sensor sockets. Now these are like a socket with a slot in them, so you can slot it over the wire, and you can get lots of different types of these, and put a tool on to actually get a better grip. So let's try it. We'll do this one first because it is a little bit easier to get in. Before I unplug anything, before I unplug any of the wiring, I'm just going to see if this is going to crack off. Oh, there we go. A little bit of force. Right, now that's cracked off. It's going to give me my tool back. Yep. Now I'm going to unclip the wiring. So we've got a little clip up there that holds it up. There we go. And the plug is just there. It's a little bit awkward. Plugs out with its little clip, so now this should just disconnect. Oh, there we go. Right, okay. Now I know it's cracked off, we can just get it to go. And take it out. There we go, one potentially faulty Lambda sensor. So when you get your new one, take it out the box, check it against the old one for length of the tip and obviously length of the cable. Make sure that looks about right. Check the plug, make sure that's the right kind of plug. There we go. These come usually with a little cap on them to protect the end, and also, if you can see that, they have a little bit of grease on there just to help the threads in. So in we go. It's just the same as removal, there's no trickery. Chuck it in. Obviously you need to screw this in before you connect the wire, or this is going to end up all twisted. We can actually, sometimes if you're lucky enough, if you plug, some of these have a big plug on, you can't get a spring spanner on. This one's quite a nice round plug. You can actually just loop that on. Now obviously this needs to be quite tight. It has got a crush washer on there to seal up the hole. It needs to be quite tight to stop any exhaust blow. That's it. And this should only plug in one way. That's it. Then we can put this back up where it lives. Fiddly this, but these are manageable. There we go. And the loose bit of cable in this little clip. There we go. Make sure that's not touching anything it should be. Shouldn't be. There we go. That's the second Lambda sensor, post-cat, done. Now, the other one is exactly the same, just it's up here, and the cable is just on top of the sump here. Now, am I going to get this tool in? I don't think so. Luckily, this kit comes with a slightly shallower one. It takes a 3/8 ratchet. A little bit rusty. Wiggle it on, there we go. There we go, super duper. I don't know how it always helps. There we go. Popped it out. Nope. There's the second one, much shorter cable. Nope. That's it. Make sure that's plugged in. Yep. Oh, there we go. considerably easier to get back in. Just make sure that's plenty in that clip. Yep. There we go. Lambda sensor's changed. That wasn't too bad. While I'm under here, I did notice how clean this engine is. No oil leaks. This is me where I've lubricated. Generally, it's a nice little thing under here. Let's go see if it's fixed it, huh? So I've just got this little code reader there. Plugged it in, ignition is on. This isn't very good for doing high-end diagnostics, but this will definitely do well enough to clear that fault. There we go, there's our fault code. Erase. Yes. Erase done. Just do a rescan just to make sure that code has gone away. No codes. Okay, so ignition off. Unplug. So this should now just start up and behave itself. Well, that's a good start. No engine light, started up okay. I'll let it warm up, make sure that it behaves itself, and I will do another scan shortly to make sure that the code doesn't come back on, make sure the engine light doesn't come back on, but that might be problem fixed. Well guys, there we go. That wasn't too bad. I have taken the car for a little bit of a drive, got it warm, got it through the rev range, been in all the gears. It still drives nice. Nothing seems to have changed with the drivability. The starting is definitely better, although I will keep an eye on that over the next few days, especially from cold. And the engine light hasn't come back on, and we have no fault codes back in the system. So that would appear on the surface that we might have fixed it. However, from the previous owner, he did say he had the fault cleared before, and it lasted a couple of days, and then it did come back in. But I'm hoping the fact that it was there when we started the job, when I went to clear the faults, we could see the fault was there, and the car hasn't been anywhere since those faults were cleared the previous time, and it had actually logged the fault. So I'm hoping just the fact that we haven't got a logged fault, and it drives fine, there's no engine light, we'll take that as a win, and I'll monitor it in the next few days, that code's starting, and every time obviously I go out in the car, I'll be keeping an eye out for that engine light. So yeah, I'm reasonably happy. That wasn't too bad. It was pretty cheap. It'd have been nicer if we had to replace one sensor, because we didn't know which one of those might have been faulty, but sometimes that's just the risk you've got to take. So I'm happy with what we've done on that so far. That's one job ticked off the list. If you liked the video, please do give me a like. Subscribe to the channel. I've got lots of content going on at the minute. We've got the mini pickup. Front end is really close to being done now. Got a few jobs on the Mercedes to tidy up. If you look back, we've got a little rally runabout, pedal and pop scooter. I've got first generation new mini, and I have got another project which is due into me in the next couple of days, which I think you guys are going to absolutely love. It is another classic, but I'm not going to say any more than that. It's something I can get my teeth into, but it isn't going to be a massive, huge restoration project. So please do hang around if you're into your classics. I know that A-Class isn't for everybody, but I've got a few playlists going here, so if I feel like there's a little bit of something for everybody. If you're into classics, you're into the modern stuff, please do flick through them playlists and find what you'd like to watch. That's all from me tonight. My name is Ed, this is Ed's Mini Empire, and I'll catch you next time.